Yesterday I made a video talking about how Xerneas is going to be returning to 5-star raids. Well, the counterpart to that Pokemon, Yveltal, is also going to be in 5-star raids as well. This video is going to be a quick guide on how you can defeat this boss and why it is a lot more significant this time around compared to before. Alright, so with that said, let's jump right into it. And how's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Alright, so at the end of this week, it is Pokemon Go Fest New York, and Niantic is building up the hype to that event by having both Xerneas and Yveltal in 5-star raids. Now, when it comes to these Pokemon, each of them are getting a brand new move this time around. When it came to Xerneas, it was getting Geomancy, and that move actually elevates that Pokemon to new levels. But Yveltal is getting a new move as well, but it may not necessarily be as good as Xerneas, unfortunately. But before I talk about that, let's first talk about how you could defeat Yveltal in raids. Alright, Yveltal is a dark and flying type Pokemon, which means it's going to be weak against electric type attacks, fairy type attacks, rock type attacks, and ice type attacks. It's also going to have a double resistance to ground, a double resistance to psychic, and regular resistance to dark, ghost, and grass type attacks. This Pokemon is quite unique in that even though it is a dark type, it is not going to take double damage from fighting types, so that is something you do need to keep in mind when you're going up against this raid boss. Pokemon that you would typically bring against dark types like Machamp and Conkeldurr are not going to work out against Yveltal. Now, Yveltal is going to be really good for the Master League, so you will want to get a 100% IV of this Pokemon. The perfect IVs are going to be 2160 if it is not weather boosted, and if it is weather boosted, you will want one that is 2701. Considering Yveltal's typing, it is going to be weather boosted by windy weather and foggy weather. Both of these weather types are actually quite rare, so don't necessarily expect to pick up a weather boosted Yveltal, unless you're pretty lucky and it's actually windy outside. Now, Yveltal is not too difficult, but it is going to be a bit on the tankier side, so getting a secure win is going to require 6 trainers that are at least level 35, with all of their Pokemon also being at least level 35. And if you want to challenge yourself, you could probably trio this Pokemon pretty easily as long as all of you are level 40 and you're bringing the absolute best counters. Speaking of which, let's go over those right now. So, Yveltal is the absolute perfect Pokemon to test out your Mega Diancys. This is because Diancie has 2 typings that are really good against Yveltal, and when it comes to this Pokemon, it has a lot of attacks that's going to deal the most DPS. Now, the other alternative for Mega Evolutions include Mega Gardevoir. This Pokemon deals a lot of fairy type damage, but considering it doesn't have too much synergy with other raiders, you would probably best go with Mega Diancie or the budget alternative, which is Mega Manectric. I think out of all of the Pokemon that counter Yveltal, electric types are going to deal the most DPS. These include Shadow Raikou, Xurkitree, Zekrom, and of course, Terrian Form Thundurus. But when it comes to non-legendary and non-shadow budget counters, you'll probably want to go with more rock types. These include Rhyperior and Rampardos, but Electivire is also a decent option if you do not have good ones of either of those two. So yeah, now that I talked about how you can defeat Yveltal, let's talk about its brand new move, which is Oblivion Wing. Now, this is actually the signature move for Yveltal, and it is a flying type charge attack. This move is actually going to make Yveltal one of the best non-mega and non-shadow Pokemon when it comes to flying types, but unfortunately, it is not necessarily going to be that good compared to one other Pokemon, and that is of course Dragon Ascent Rayquaza. That is a Pokemon that will be available this week during Pokemon Go Fest, at least for those who are attending Pokemon Go Fest New York, and then globally next week during Pokemon Go Fest Global. That Pokemon is going to be the absolute best flying type with that move. So unfortunately, Yveltal gets outclassed as a flying type raid attacker almost immediately. It is of course a decent dark type attacker, but considering that there's so many dark types out there that are just way better than Yveltal, it's not necessarily going to be useful in that regard. But it may actually be good for PvP, just like with Xerneas. It is definitely going to be a top tier Pokemon when it comes to the Master League, so in my opinion, I still think it is worth going after this Pokemon in raids. Between the two, Xerneas Xerneas and Yveltal, I would say that Xerneas is going to take a lot more priority considering it has a lot more uses. But when it comes to Yveltal, it is definitely a really good Pokemon. So if it is your favorite among the two, then yeah, you could go for it and you will be okay. Also, don't forget that Yveltal's shiny form is available as well. It has a rate of 1 in 20, so for every Yveltal raid that you defeat, you have a 1 in 20 chance that it will be shiny. And that is going to be important because Yveltal's shiny is actually one of the rare ones, just like Xerneas. And that is of course because it hasn't really returned to raid battles that often ever since its shiny was released. So if you want a really good trade chip, shiny Yveltal is definitely one you should pick up. But yeah, in any case, with that said, that's going to be it for this video. If you found this video to be helpful and informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. Also, if you want to support my channel non-monetarily, you could do so by following me on social media. I'm over on the following platforms, and my handle is @CountJinsula. So make sure you go and follow me on those platforms. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.